you're dealing with a combo, if not all, of the top problems facing content marketers and SEO professionals today. A lack of resources, not being sure what's producing results, and time to produce results. We're going to talk about how to solve for those problems today inside of COVID-19 and how we're preparing for the other side, how to prepare for the rebound. I'm so excited. Tim Kilroy is here with us today. He's a 3-time agency owner and now coaches agencies on how to be even more awesome than they already are. His experience is pretty deep and broad, so we're very lucky to have him and get to pick his brain today about ways to get ready for strong recovery. Tim, thanks for being here today.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Let's dig in.
Great.
Because
okay.
there's so much to talk about. I mean,
There is really, really great. So what are you seeing that are positives coming out of the COVID-19 experience with your clients or with your practice?
So everybody's either more busy or less busy than they were previously. And if you're more busy, that's awesome, right? Because you are now sort of like stress testing yourself and growing and you know, you're sort of gaining gaining market share and share of voice that they didn't have before. So that's cool. That's one good thing. But if you're less busy, which I would say about half of my clients are less busy, the cool thing is the ones who are owning this less busy time are the ones who are sort of investing internally. They're taking this time to think, okay, do we have the right people in the right seats? Do we have the right process? Do we have the right value proposition? Are we anticipating what our clients need or want? And so I think both kinds of companies, the ones that are more busy than previously and the ones who are investing internally, they're the ones who are going to rebound the best, the fastest, and be better on the other side. The people who are saying, you know what, we're just going to wait it out, or we'll start when things are more normal, we'll do things. I think those are the people who are they're functionally opting to be left behind.
Got it. So a positive of this experience is that if you are slower than you would like to be, you have the opportunity to shore up some weaknesses or create some cool stuff.
Yeah, it's like this is your time to sharpen your saw.
Yeah, exactly. And if you decide to pop a squat, you're probably going to get left behind.
Exactly. That's right.
Understood.
Elegantly put.
Thank you. So what do you see as possible because of this COVID-19 experience for yourself, for clients, that wouldn't have been possible without it?
Well, I think there are a couple of things that are pretty remarkable. Number one, the fact that we can all connect remotely is awesome. And I'm obviously gonna like push this beyond what's likely to happen. But if we can reduce the number of business trips, but still maintain our connections, how fantastic is that? Right? It's good for the earth. It's good. It's good for your family. It's good for your communities. Like, that's all great stuff. Secondly, I think the fact that people are very focused on everyone else. So you see that locally, right? You see where people are, here in my town, at 6 o'clock, everybody like waves up the window to their neighbor.
In Boston, took this on the chin, right?
Yeah, right. And so that's, that's cool. And people are they're sharing baked goods, having virtual cocktail hours, and so they are reconnecting to the things that are important to them, because on a regular weeknight, we have a giant parcel of kids. We don't think like, wouldn't it be nice to touch base with the neighbors or our friends and, and stop and have a moment. And if we had to bring kids to the here, there, and everywhere, we would never think of that. So we have actually increased the sort of the density and frequency of our connections. locally, which is pretty amazing.
I got
That
that.
is right. And I think in many respects that's happening in business too. You know, where it's now okay to ask your client or your prospect, hey, how you doing? And we're just allowed to be more human. You
Yeah.
know, one of my clients, um, who's just she's a terrific agency owner. Um, her two biggest clients left because they were having other business problems, and so her revenue dropped like 40% in a day. Um, and I actually had another client, that her business dropped by 90% in a day. And both of those agency owners reeled from that, but at the same time, they were able to reach out to people in their networks saying like, hey, this just happened. How can, and is there a way that I can help you help me? Because stuff just happened that was beyond my control. And and both those agency owners got significant emotional support, great referrals, and both of them, one of them is way beyond their original revenue target, and the other one, the one who lost 90%, is now back to about 75% of her previous revenue, and she works in the travel industry, which, by the way, she services hotels. Cuckoo, where hotels
Wow.
are rocking like they got like 3% occupancy rate in the United States, and her business is now at 75% of where it was before COVID. Like
Mm.
total banana crazy pants stuff, and it's all because it was okay to be human. Like saying like this happens. Can someone help? Do you know anybody? And that's cool. And there I now I don't know this to be globally true, but it feels like there's a lot less sort of, especially in the agency space, there's a lot less taking from people, and there's a much more, there's a bigger sense of giving and sharing and being in together.
Got it. Wow. Great. Yeah. That's really great. And I've gotten that from you earlier too, when things got, when this ball got rolling and we all kind of got reoriented. I've heard you say on a couple of occasions how much fun you're having serving.
Yeah, I mean honestly, my business slowed down, right?
Yeah.
Because agency owners are scared. But to tell you the truth, the fact that I'm able to like jump in and help
Mm.
is awesome. You
Yeah.
know, because all that, like, that's what you're supposed to do as a person.
Yeah. Well, and it's a great power source, isn't it?
Yeah,
So,
and it keeps me motivated, keeps me on the ball. It doesn't let it doesn't let things fall by the wayside. Because and the people that are closest to you, and in a business sense, those are my clients. Like those are the people that matter. And so if I can present myself in a way that where I can be of service, and so I can make their businesses better, it doesn't. Obviously, everybody wants to get paid, but I know if I make their business better, eventually they're going to make my business better.
I got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I hear also you're saying it's bringing out some of the best in people and the
Yeah.
opportunity for connections and networking and being human. That's, yeah, all
Right.
really great stuff. Yeah. We wouldn't
Now,
have seen it to this degree without the experience.
right now, on the other hand, I have noticed that some people that I previously had a lot of respect for, um, have kind of gone like cuckoo banana pants conspiracy theory stuff, which uh, all, and that's and they're all doing it sort of in the name of personal exceptionalism, that's, and I find that trend to be a little bit sad, but the vast majority of people, I think, are being better to one another, and I love that.
Really great. So this next question may be something that you've already answered from the past, but if you want to take a swing at it kind of in a slightly
Sure.
different take, right, you're welcome to. Or just tell me, nah, let's skip to the next one. What have you or your peers or teams at your organization or in the organizations you're serving, what have they learned that they wouldn't have learned or you wouldn't have learned without the COVID-19 experience?
So two things. One is every agency leader that I work with has realized how important their team is. You know, I mean, the best leaders always keep that in mind, but especially for emerging leaders, people who haven't led for very long or very big teams, they realize how much support they get from their team. And I think many have realized that instead of their job is not to sort of put on the harness and drag the wagon up the hill, which is what they thought they were doing. Like their job is to sort of organize everybody and sort of lead them almost from behind. So they're much more shepherds than commanders. And I think that has been a revelation for many. Also, a sort of a side benefit. I have a couple of clients that have grown. They grew substantially before COVID, and their businesses grew, and they added a layer of management. And they're taking the wise step of taking this time where things are a little bit slower to help that sort of emerging class of leaders become leaders and learn about managing people and learn about sort of managing process and foresight and insight. And I think and I'm really, really excited about the people that have invested in that way, because they've not just increased the power of that person, they've increased sort of exponentially the power of their organization by creating people who have autonomy and leadership, underneath the CEO. And that's really exciting.
That's normally not how it goes when someone's onboarded because there's a need, huh?
Right, exactly.
That is extraordinary. Great. So what about you, Tim? Other than serving people and contributing and sharpening saws, is there anything else that you are doing to prepare for the rebound?
So I've created a bunch of content. And so in a way, I'm actually stockpiling content that I can use for future engagements and future products and that kind of stuff. So so that's really where I've spent my time. And in the short term, I'm also trying super hard to sort of bring what I do, because I'm not cheap. But there are the businesses that can't afford me. Those are the ones that are most at risk. So I've actually spent a lot of time sort of reshaping some of my content so it's appropriate for them, and I'm trying to roll it out either in free webinars that I'm giving to folks or putting together low cost products so that I can help them help themselves.
Got it. Great. What has surprised you?
How it's okay to be a human being, especially in the, in the agency space. There's there's a veneer of, hair gels and finger guns, right? Like we're media, we're technology, we're cool, and suddenly it's okay to say like, oh yeah, that is my kid who's screaming and my dog is barking, and yes, I'm wearing the same sweatpants as I did yesterday. and that's sort of all okay. So instead of having the veneer of having it all together, you can have the authenticity of being yourself and doing your job. That has really been surprising. The fact that it's all been okay to it's all been okay to be yourself.
Awesome.
And also wonder, wonder aloud, because tomorrow and yesterday and today, they all sort of blur together. And so it's, like we're all living in this world of not now, later now, earlier now, and so I think people are more, they have the permission to be more present.
Nice.
Yeah.
How are you seeing that this has affected the way that the teams at your clients are working?
That's a little bit uneven, honestly, because there are a lot of folks who have remote teams, and so the impact of the change is different all over the world. So some people are racing ahead, some people are feeling extraordinary stress, and so it has been a little bit uneven. But to go back to our first point, the agency owners that are spending their time sort of investing in making sure that the team works together better, I think that sort of team building stuff has really is really paying benefits, not only in preparation for the future, but sort of in collective stress reduction in the now. Because if you are more connected to and trust your teammates more, things are a little bit easier.
Oh, I got that.
Yeah.
Nice. What about with your clients? Are you seeing an impact? And this may be, yeah, let me start that one again. With your clients, what impact are you seeing on how they're selling? Were many of them already selling virtually, or are they doing a hard stop pivot from face-to-face selling to now remote selling?
So I would say that most most of my clients sold mostly remotely, anyways. Uh, only the biggest only the biggest clients typically have enough budget to afford to go travel to a destination to make a pitch. Um, that being said, the biggest change that I have seen, and for anybody who's in the agency space who wants a free tip, for the past like 5 years, the only thing that you had to sell is the revenue rocket. Hire us, 30% better, 50% better, we're amazing, blah, blah, blah. Well, the revenue rocket is not believable right now because nobody knows what's going to happen next. And even if you have strong opinions about it, you don't have any empiric data to say that things are going to get better or worse anytime soon. So the agency pitch has changed quite a bit from our process ensures that the day before we start working with you was your worst day, and that we will end up being the breakwater that protects your downside. And by the way, we also have the opportunity to do this upside because we've learned all this stuff during the good times, but fundamentally our process stops any bleeding. And that has been a crucial adjustment that people have made in their pitch, saying that we can guarantee that the day after we start working, it's never going to get worse.
Got it. Nice.
And that, by the way, harkens back to the sales pitch in like 2001, which a sales pitch that an agency I worked with had at that point was, so what's your worst performing channel? And someone would come up with the answer and say, okay, we guarantee that if you invest in digital marketing, it won't be worse than that.
Nice.
Yeah, right. And that was sort of in the detritus of the .com crash, but
right.
but I think similarly, like right now, we're protecting you from downside and giving the opportunity for upside, rather than previously it just been like, we are the revenue rocket, hire us and you can retire 6 years sooner.
So Tim, you've seen a few crisis situations in your career. So
yes,
we've
I'm
had
old.
No, not what I meant. Yes. You've seen the dot-com bubble.
Yeah,
You've seen
yeah.
2008's recession, 9/11, and now this. What wisdom, what advice do you have for folks for weathering crises, taking advantage of what there is to take advantage of in them,
Yeah.
and prepare for the rebound? Big picture.
Yeah. So my timing, by the way, is awful because I first started my first agency in 2001. Like that was smart. And then I started my second one in 2008.
Got it.
Like, you know, so here's the thing about uncertainty. Uncertainty is only replaced by certainty. And so in order to sell effectively and to buy effectively in times of turmoil, you have to be certain. And so it is, you cannot say like, we're going to figure this out together. Like that's not an effective strategy in times of turmoil. What is a more effective strategy is, this is what we know to work. We're going to implement this thing that is rock solid and bulletproof. And once we're at a point of comfort with that, then we can start experiment about the individual tweaks that we do with you. But there's got to be the absolute clarity and certainty that there is a plan. And that is crucial. So squishy plans don't work. Guesses don't work. What does work is, this is our process. This is why we have it. This is the impact we know we're going to have. Though, you know, that's level of certainty. And by the way, that level of certainty cannot be bluster, right? You have to have reasons for this. And you may not actually, you don't even actually have to have prior results, but you have to have like rock solid reasoning for suggesting this plan, and you as the provider have to have like 100% belief in what you're doing, because it's got to be authentic and real.
Great. So Tim, I know you've spoken at a few virtual events in the last month and a half. What do you see will stick about virtual events, and what might, sneeze, nope. Excuse me, what might go away? And, you know, think about conferences and how much biz dev happens, how many relationships are built. Any insight from I've seen you at at least a couple of online conferences in the last month and a half.
Yeah, so I think there will be more online conferences because they are easy and efficient, and they actually have a longer half-life than traditional conferences, because traditional conferences don't record all of the presentations and don't make them available. And so I think the virtual conferences that allow their content to be made free post the event, I think that will continue to add benefit to the conference, and benefit to the presenters and to the audience. So I think that will stick. The networking, trade show booth, that kind of stuff, lead gen stuff is harder, certainly. But I do think that there is an element of it that's going to stick. So if you go to a sponsored conference, you know, you're an attendee, then you're sort of immediately put into, you know, a warm lead, you know, warm lead flow of one of the sponsors. That happens less at real conferences. And so I do think that in sort of a cost-effective lead generation, I feel like virtual conferences are going to have a much higher ROI, but at lower scale.
Got it.
But I do think, but it is unclear to me. Actually, it's very clear to me that a lot of stuff at conferences, like sponsoring the cocktail party, I think people are going to realize, like, holy moly, having my name on a banner above some really bad Merlot, like, is not an effective marketing strategy because it's noisy. And so I think that as real conferences reemerge in the next year or so, I think they're going to be more intimate and less CES like. They're going to be more roundtable, real engagements, and less 10,000 booths.
Mhm. Got it. Great. Is there anything I haven't asked you that you'd like me to?
I don't think so.
Thanks. Great. Great. This
I
is
mean,
really great.
I'm a Cancer. I like long walks on the beach.
Got it.
Baudelaire. All the regular stuff. So
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice. Thank you.